Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Julianne Zavallo-Martin from Brandman University. I wanted to know how early childhood teachers, directors, providers, and other professionals were managing at this stage of our pandemic crisis. I've been worried about everybody. I wanted to know what they were experiencing and how they were exercising compassion for themselves and others. So I reached out to my network to ask for some volunteers that I could interview. Many people volunteered. You know how collaborative we all are. I talked to two directors, two early childhood special educators, and one toddler teacher for this particular presentation. The remainder of this presentation, after I finish speaking, is full of humor, wisdom, compassion, and creativity as each of the panelists explores their answers to my questions. The questions I asked them were, how have you been managing your program during the pandemic? What has been most painful or challenging? Where have you had to exercise compassion? What has been something surprising or positive that you have learned from this experience? How have you been supporting families and caregivers? What has taken courage for you? What have you learned about taking care of yourself and others during the pandemic? I'm very pleased to present you with these expert panelists who are living their response to the pandemic every single day with heart. Hi, Diane. Thank you for
Hello.
joining me today. Can you give everybody your name and what you do and where you are?
Sure. My name is Diane Stein, and I am the director at LA Mission College Child Development Center. And I also run the Family Home Education Network, as well as an adjunct in the Department of Child and Family Studies at Mission College.
My name is Sarah Featherstone, and I'm currently an ECSE teacher working in an inclusion classroom here.
I'm Sandra Souza, and I am a early childhood special education teacher in Santa Barbara County.
Is Leslie Amato, and I work at Lake Tahoe Community College in South Lake Tahoe, California. And I am the Director of Child Development Programs. I oversee a traditional child care center on campus with the infant, toddler, and preschool program. And then I also oversee a parent cooperative called Tahoe Parents Nursery School. Each program is about 50 to 60% capacity these days.
Oh, because of the pandemic.
Because of the pandemic.
My name is Stephanie Servin. I'm currently an early childhood educator. I'm teaching 2-year-olds this year at a private preschool down in Encinitas. I've recently moved to the San Diego County area, and it's a very small program. There's 5 different classrooms, but they've had to change their model of how they are adapting.
Tell me a little bit about that model and how it's going and how you're involved in it.
So before, they used to have, there's 2 buildings, a lower building and an upper building, and each building has 2 to 3 classrooms depending on what day of the week it is. But now for COVID, they are only allowed to have 1 classroom at a time, and we have moved to an entirely outdoor model. So for my classroom that meets Tuesdays and Thursdays, there's no other children inside of my classroom for the entire day, so that we conduct our classroom outside for the whole 2.5 hours of the program. We disinfect and clean everything, move everything back inside, and then the next day a different class comes in. So we make sure that none of the children are intermingling, none of the teachers can be in other classrooms. We're really just supposed to stay with our own pod of, 12 kids is what my classroom has.
That sounds very challenging. Are you finding it to be a lot more work?
A lot more cleaning work. It's a very watching, making sure, we always taught the kids to to cover their sneezes and cover their coughs with their elbows. But now we're much more conscious. Like somebody sneezes and we're like, who sneezed? Okay, is this somebody I need to watch after? Somebody I need to make sure they don't have any other symptoms of what's going on. So it's definitely a different year for us.
Are you, as part of the protocol, that you wear a mask?
Yes, we have to wear a mask or a face shield. But while we are, since I'm twos, we're diaper changing, we have to make sure that we're wearing a mask during the diaper changing. They said face shield is not sufficient during that time.
Wow. And how is it going wearing a mask working with 2-year-olds?
You know, I can't decide which one's better or which one's worse. You know, the mask, the children are unable to see my face, and I have such, you know, that's what we're teaching the children during this time, is that social emotional. What are the face cues that I'm doing? And I can't model that to any of them. So yesterday when I was there, I was kind of going back and forth between the face mask and the face shield, and the face shield is very echoing. So I've got such that loud teacher voice, and it just like rattles my ears. I'm like, I have to whisper.
Well, I feel like I've turned into a secretary a lot of times, because a lot of what I'm doing now is scheduling. It's a lot of scheduling with parents, and then, you know, my team, and circle times. And, you know, I think there's just a lot of back work that's happening that isn't always apparent to everyone else, you know, just when you have to get your Google Slides ready for your group time, you know, you have to find the content. That takes time. Like all these things take time, and to review everything, it takes time. So that's kind of what the job has turned into, I feel like.
Do you feel like you're working more hours than you would if you were in the classroom?
Yes, I think I am, but I feel like less is getting done. Like I'm doing more, and I feel like the product is less, you know. I'm not seeing like immediate results like you would in the classroom every day working with a kid, and you're like, all right, he's getting it, you know. It's like looking at a screen, I'm like, is he getting it? Like, I can't tell. You know, it's harder that way.
How that's a good point. And how are you able to determine if children are meeting your learning outcomes?
I think it's pretty difficult. We're relying a lot on parent report, and I'm meeting with the parents for half an hour a week, and then with the kids and parents for a half an hour a week. And I'm also having my assistants take notes during group time so that they can have their focus children that they're observing. They turn their cameras off so there's less visual noise, and they notice if the kids are attending. And so that's kind of how we're trying to record progress. And then the other part is asking parents and pleading with parents and emailing parents, please send me pictures, please send me videos, you know. But so far, I'm not having a lot of luck with that. So it needs to almost be like first then, or I don't know how to make the parents like really send me more things, even text. I'm like, just text me a picture of your child kicking a soccer ball or running, or, you know. So that part's a little bit challenging, is the documentation part, especially for me coming from a Reggio background into special ed. I'm like, this is so not Reggio, like nothing about this, you know. It's just very, it has to be very scripted and very organized. And it's like, that's not my natural way at all. So.
Right. You want to teach more responsively.
Right. So it's like in the moment, and you see a butterfly, and we're talking about butterflies. Let's go find the book about butterflies. You know, it's a lot harder to do that. So I tried to take what the parents tell me and then change my like videos and my Google Slides or whatever about different areas of need. You know, say it's about my kid won't get dressed, so let's watch a video about that. But it's more challenging that way.
Well, we have two entities of the program, the child care portion and the family child care portion. The family child care portion stayed open through the entire time and continues to be open. They only close if they have somehow been exposed to, and so we have had a few cases where that has occurred. And when that does, we really work with the provider and work with the families in making sure that foremost that everybody is as safe as possible to be together. And then as far as the center is concerned, we have been closed since March 16th and continue to be remote with the children and families and staff.
So how are you, how is it going with the virtual learning? How is that working? What are some of the challenges?
You know, at first it was challenges because we work with low-income families, so not everybody had computers, nor did they have capability of Wi-Fi. And so it took a little bit of working alongside with families, nor did they have the computer skills to maybe be able to learn how to go onto Zoom and be able to do our time with the children and families. But we really took the approach of we will help each family individually, in small groups, and as a whole, so that way we can really make sure that everybody's needs are being met. And so we continue to do that. We started off with just, maybe 1 or 2 times a day with children, to then venturing into what else can we do so we can really capture children's attention, interest, and expand upon their curiosity, while meeting the needs of the families who are also going through a tremendous stressful period of time right now.
So in March, when we all were sat home, we switched our programs to be virtual. And so I had teachers learning how to be teachers online. And we had a couple months of that. And that went really well. I look at that as being, ultimately, that was the safest place we were, right? And as difficult as that was, that looks blissful at this point. So we're all back in person, which is a new level of security and safety measures for everybody. And that's going really well as well. So the teachers are in masks all day. The children are not required to have masks on. And I'm learning how to contact trace and call the health department when needed. So those are some big challenges, but the resilience overall is great. We are definitely having some challenges on staff coming to work. If they have a sniffle, right, they're not allowed to come. And so staffing is our next big project.
It's very different. It goes against a lot of things that I believe in. So I teach special education, and a lot of our young children have social skills, needing social skills. They have social skill goals. And so we're told to distance ourselves from each other. And how do you do that? How do you work on those goals when you're social distancing? So you have to be creative. You have to think of other ways of engaging children. And the whole classroom is set up completely different than what I'm used to or what I would like for it to be. And so it goes against the grain sometimes, right? Because we're humans and we socialize. So it's very different.
So what has been most challenging for you during this time? I know you're a mother also and are
Yes.
balancing all of that. So what has been really the most challenging or even painful about, this time?
I think it's being really, really conscious about what the children are going through. As hard as it's been for us to be inside for, it's almost been 6 months now that we've been doing this. Reminding myself that while my child, I've got a 5-year-old at home, she's been having a lot more tantrums lately. And I really think it's because a lot of their normal day-to-day activities have been taken away from us. I haven't been able to go to the park as much. We go and we see the caution tape everywhere. A lot has changed for these kids. So it's reminding myself that, you know, this tantrum's not about me. It's about what's going on around them. And I just need to take a deep breath and remind my kids that it's temporary. Hopefully, you know, hopefully we'll get through this together.
Maybe the inequities that people have with the access to the technology, because it can be so frustrating when you can't connect online. Even at my house, we've had to buy probably 4 routers, or, you know, just so we can make sure that everyone can get online. And not everybody can do that. And even with all that, sometimes it fails. And so, you know, I'm thinking about families who don't have access to really high-speed internet, because it really, with the video, it really needs to be fast. And maybe their devices are older, or, you know, they're working on an iPad rather than a computer, you know, those kinds of things. And then I think for like myself, it can be disheartening sometimes just being online. You know, you don't have that connection. Like, I really miss those little moments with the kids and them smiling or having a good time, or we're laughing, and or they learn something new. But it's not always learning, it's just having a good time together, is, you know, those relationships that I miss. And then I think working hard and not having parents show up, like, that hurts my feelings, I would say. You know, it's hard as a teacher. You're like trying to make sure everything's right, but like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, kind of a thing, you know? So that can be painful at times.
Yes, I feel that. I feel that pain. I have the same thing happen in my teaching.
You know, when you hear of families who have lost jobs, who don't have food to put on their tables, who are afraid that they're going to get evicted, it's heartbreaking. And so working with community efforts to find help and assistance for them is something that we work on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. And it's getting more difficult and more difficult. The items are there for them to pick up, to use, to have, but the home environment, it's stressful for them. They're worried, they're scared. And so really giving them the tools to just look at the moment, to look at the day of what's successful, has been really helpful for them.
I think not having the children in the classroom has been the most painful. It's, you know, preschool is fuzzy and cuddly, and, you know, you have all those warm feelings with children, and having to not be able to be around them and help them has been very difficult. We also have children that have a lot of behavior issues. And so seeing their regression and seeing the frustration in parents' faces and hearing what they say and not being able to go into the home and help them, or, you know, have the children come here, that's been difficult. And realizing, you know, making sure that our children are in a safe place. And it doesn't mean that my parents are in any way inappropriate with their children. It just means that they're human. And when you have a child that has behavior issues and you're dealing with this 24/7 with no breaks, that is a very difficult life. And so trying to provide some kind of help, calming strategies, things like that for them has been helpful, but not nearly as good as it could be if we were all in the classroom.
I think everyone with the understanding of they're becoming essential workers, right? And so that there was a huge fear of what that entailed, and just trying to tap into what that looks like when we do have such great safety measures in place. Temperature checks daily. We have a screening that you can't come on campus unless you pass all these questions. And then just the continuous cleaning, right? And then someone sneezes and you're, you know, that panic. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge, other than the need to switch to, so I have some virtual classes going on as well as in-person programming. So again, the the virtual takes a lot of time in terms of planning and showing up. But once you're there online, it's great. So lots of challenges. I think overall, it's pretty overwhelming when you look at how many people you're responsible for, including yourself, and what's working for you. But I'm a pretty optimistic person, so I just have to, let it go. Oh, I didn't get to that. I have to let that go.
Finding it to be a little bit more difficult to be your regular optimistic self during all of this?
Completely. Right, I'm smiling with you because I recognize you as a friend and professor, but yeah, when the doors are closed and you're pulling your hair out, and I melt when I get home.
What has been the most painful about this whole time?
The constant shift, right? The constant unknown. If you were to ask me what my biggest fear in life was, it would be the unknown. Every day now is unknown, literally from hour to hour. And so that's definitely been the biggest challenge of taking it in, having something come at you and deciding, how will I respond? How will so-and-so respond, right? Sometimes that's different in itself. And then is that going to affect the children? So it's just that constant incoming information, non-information, is someone well? Is someone not well? Are they awaiting results? All these things.
So has there been anything positive? Do you feel like any any innovation, creativity, or anything that has come of this that would not have come otherwise?
I think there's been some positives. I definitely have gotten to know the parents a lot better, because usually, they're just dropping off and going. And so, or their child comes on the bus and you really don't have a lot of contact with them. So this has, in this short period of time, I felt like I've gotten to know the parents pretty well. And so that's really helpful for making changes at home, because when the parents trust you, they're going to listen to your advice, or they're going to ask you for help, so that part I think has been great. The other good thing is I felt like I was really inept, technologically speaking, like just starting last year, like in my online credential program, I was like in tears. I was like, I don't know how to do this, and so I feel it's kind of like learning a second language, right? Like when you're forced, if you're in the country and you actually have to learn the language, it's really hard, but you start to do it because you have to. And so that's kind of how it's been with the technology. It's like, I never wanted to, I never had to, but now I have to. And so it's been like a technology boot camp since March of figuring all this stuff out.
Do you feel like, speaking of the technology, do you feel like and the parents, do you feel like there's anything that you would keep in place that's been beneficial after you eventually go back into the classroom?
I mean, I think if there was time for it, it would be great to have continue these kind of half an hour one-on-one meetings, at least with the parents, to just kind of check in and say, hey, what's going on at home? Or how is he doing with this goal? Or how can I support you? That kind of thing. Because I felt like that connection has been really, really good. And I think some of the technology, even in the classroom, because I was very anti-technology before, and I can see, especially students with disabilities, at least with learning some of the basic concepts they need to know, it's way more engaging on a screen sometimes, depending on what their disability is. They tend better. So that's another.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be interesting to see. You might be changed as a teacher when you go back, and now that you feel comfortable with some things, there's things that you might never have tried, and now you will.
Yeah.
So has anything been—
You have to have a sense of humor. That's what I believe, which you always do anyway when you teach young children. and especially young children with special needs, right? You have to have a sense of humor. So it was very challenging in the beginning, not just just the fact of being on camera and that people were watching you on camera. And so you have to realize that if you make a mistake, it's okay. If you say the wrong thing, it's okay. You know, you just go with the flow and you say you're sorry, whatever, and you correct your mistake and you continue on. And in the beginning, that was really difficult because I would think, oh, look at my hair. Oh, look at, I look like this. And, again, you learn to ignore those things and realize that your job is to try to connect with those families. And so that was the most insightful part of teaching virtually, was learning a lot about our parents and their parenting styles. So realizing that now we're not only teaching the children, but we're also having to coach parents. So a lot of our virtual teaching or classroom or lessons that we were doing, was a lot of it was coaching parents on how to help their children complete the activities and tasks that we set up for them.
I think being able to spend the time with my children, really getting to see, I've still got that teacher hat on while I'm being a mom and doing this homeschool stuff with them, but really seeing how they learn, being able to take what I've learned in the classroom and applying it to my own children, and really seeing what makes their little brains tick and how I can continue that learning process at home. It's getting to spend that quality time.
Speaking of parents, so you're obviously having to work with parents more. You're relying on them a lot. How do you feel like it's going for the parents? What are they going through right now?
I feel like overall everyone's overwhelmed. And even if it was, and I feel like my program has done a good job of making it really manageable. We're only doing 3 30-minute group times a week that are live. Where other schools, it's 5 days a week. But the parents have other children in the home. Everyone's on Zoom. They're trying to multitask. Then they've got ABA therapists coming in at a certain time. And it's like, they've also become secretaries too, having to try to manage who's doing what, and then the internet can be an issue if you have multiple people on the internet. So I just feel like, they're getting emails from me. I try not to do too many. They're getting emails from their other children's teachers. It's just a lot for people. And here in Napa, we've had the fires. And so that's an extra layer. It's like that we didn't need. And so now these poor parents are they have no respite, because these guys need to go outside and jump off things and, run and do things, and like they can't. And then they don't understand why they can't, because it's too smoky outside and the air quality is so poor. So
that was a new low. That's a new low, to be online and then have to stay inside because of smoke.
Yes. It's been bad. And then it's like, we're just keep working along like nothing's happening. And I think that's the other thing. It's like, oh, it's okay. We're in a pandemic. Great. Now we're just going to keep going. And then now we have fires, and it looks like we're still okay for now. We're getting like evacuation alerts on our, devices while we're doing online services. And it's just like, oh, everything's fine. Like, just put a smile on, kind of stuff.
You are also going through a tremendous stressful period of time right now with trying to figure out how to have children home 24/7. And, the scariness of maybe catching the coronavirus. And also, where does the income come from? If my children are home, how do I continue my studies? How do I work? How am I going to survive? And so really helping families cope during this time has been a tremendous honor, and it has also been, hard to be able to find resources. But we've now come to a good stance to be able to really help families, and it feels good to be in that position to assist them in any way possible, and for them to build that family unit that's going to create memories and to be able to help them to understand the development of their child even further. Where before they would drop their children off, they would pick them up at the end of the day, they maybe heard a few things, but now they're really entrenched with what it is that we're doing, and they're able to now carry that out within their family home.
Well, what I'm hearing you say is that and I'm curious about how you've done it, but that you have spent more energy and innovation in working with the families, and that you feel that there's maybe even a positive outcome from this in terms of the, family growth and family, involvement.
Yes. So we did a lot of surveys at the very beginning, finding out what materials people had at home, what would they be willing to get at the market if we wanted to do some sort of an activity with them, what materials we needed to gather to give to families so they could be successful in being home with their children. You know, families don't necessarily have the books and the educational materials, but we can make educational materials out of anything. We're early childhood innovators. And so, it was a great honor to be able to work with them and try and figure out how can we do this. So our first times with children were really where we were showing them how to do something, or we had the materials, and now it's really progressed to where we ask families to have materials ready, and if they don't have those materials, they could still join us and learn about it. But if they have the materials, to gather them ahead of time so we can all work together on the activities. And we changed our activities. At first we did, 2 times a day, and that's all that we were going to do. And, we covered a circle time per se during those times. And then we realized families don't necessarily have the books at home. And so we really wanted to do some story time. So then we added story times a few different times in the day. We even added a bedtime story, which is our highest one that we have families come to. And so I think it's a great way for them to help children to get to that point where maybe they're going to go to sleep and just to calm their bodies down. And it is a great modeling tool for families on how to read a story. So we found great success in that. And then what we decided to do is we changed our modality and did more like enrichment classes. So it was really specific, and we gave families an outline of what was going to happen so they could pick and choose which activities they wanted their children to be involved in. And they could be prepared with items if needed. So one of the activities we did was making ice cream. Now, families didn't know that they could make ice cream at home from Ziploc bags and ice and salt and, ingredients. And they were thrilled, so thrilled that they even actually got on Zoom and shared the recipe and did the experience with their family members. So their extended family members that they weren't able to be involved with at the time. So I think we're building these memories with them. And it's an activity that they'll continue to do because it's fun, it's easy, and it's exciting. You get a cause and effect out of that.
It sounds like you've had a lot of positive outcomes, and that families are very involved and are really growing and expanding in their, their knowledge and ways to engage each other even.
Right. So it's different than how it was before, where children might have played, or maybe they would play with them for just a little bit, but then they had to do their schoolwork, or they had to do their other, necessary chores and routines that they need to do in home. But they're finding ways to really have this balance between home life and work life and school life, and actually time spent with children that are going to benefit the whole family.
That really sounds like a silver lining. Really sounds like a positive that has come up.
Yeah.
It sounds like you just have a lot of compassion for the parents and are really recognizing that it's been extra stressful for them because they have their children all day.
Yes.
and don't have that help. And you have
Yes.
noticed that, have you noticed parents being a little bit more stressed than in the past?
Yes.
Mhm.
So as soon as we were able to open up, several parents that I thought would said, yes, I'm sending them. And I don't blame them one bit. Not at
Right.
all. Yeah.
It's better for everybody to have that. Yeah.
And so a lot of times you needed more one-on-one with parents to help them. Most every parent that that is in my classroom are very, very grateful and very willing to do anything to help their child, but just appreciative of everything that we're doing. So not only were we doing virtual classes, but we were also providing weekly packets for children, and that also takes a lot of work to do. And so doing that and then teaching parents how to do different activities.
Is it taking courage? Where are you having to really call on your courage?
Man. You know, I rely a lot on my family, I think, for the support. And again, it's kind of like the compassion, just have to dig deep. And I choose to show up to work. Like before I walk out that door, I may hesitate many times and go back for an extra love. And then, right, but I'm choosing to show up and to be that happy face and smiling, and because that's contagious, right? That is a good virus, is the contagious part of being able to smile even behind a mask. I think people really rely on that.
Yeah, they sounds like they really rely on you and on your demeanor and positivity.
I hope so.
Courageous in when we started up again in August in the school year. I think just getting over the anxiety and the fear of being back in the classroom, and again, just being very strict with our policies, our new policies in cleaning and sanitizing and all of that. And I think just having everybody back in, while we know this is great and the best thing, it still can be very fearful. I still get anxiety, and I have to think, oh, that child doesn't look well, or we're temping and oh, they're a little high. But then you have to calm yourself down and realize when kids start school in the beginning of the year, they usually get a cold or something anyway. So instead of overreacting to it, just taking some deep breaths and just kind of monitoring the situation.
So remaining calm has been something you have to make an effort at.
Yes, definitely. And managing not just the children and their parents, but your paras and your paraprofessionals in the classroom. So
right.
managing their anxieties and trying to help, calm them down also is.
I would like to say that me switching over to this homeschool journey has been a very courageous step, and being more accountable for my children's learning as opposed to just my students' learning, and getting to trust myself, realizing, hey, I do know what I'm doing with teaching older kids, because I was normally just, with the little ones, but now I've got a 4th grader and a kindergartner. So really taking what I learned as an, ECE student and taking it over to my older kids as well.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
As you said before, your mom and teacher blending together.
Yes.
Have you felt, you personally felt more called on to exercise compassion and with families and with teachers and with yourself? And, how is that going in terms of your compassion and empathy?
Most definitely. We're a society that goes into the grocery store and says, "Hi, how are you?" to the clerk, and the person says, "Good, how are you?" And we go on with our day. And now we're really asking that question, and we're asking to dive deeper. So that has to you have to have a relationship to be able to do something like that.
Mhm.
And so for families to feel comfortable enough to be able to share that with you, for staff members to be able to share that with you, we have to also remember the staff members have children at home. So they're trying to also carry on their jobs with other children and their own children. And our jobs are never done anymore. We are working far more than we ever worked, and I thought I worked a lot already. But it also helps because you're doing something for the better good of others, so that makes you feel good about what you're doing. And it also makes you slow down and realize what's been positive about this experience.
Yeah, you have to. They have families also, and co-teachers, they have
Yeah.
little ones. I'm past that, but they have little ones in their home, and they're coming in and teaching and going home, to their children too.
Right. Well,
Be supportive with co-teachers and paras and families. Yeah, it can be draining. Definitely. We had this conversation the other day with another co-teacher that, this year when we get home, we do nothing.
Absolutely. More compassion for them and more compassion for us too, as teachers and mothers. And our roles have intermingled a lot. A lot of the teachers around here are doing double duty, trying to manage their children at home and take on this homeschool journey and virtual remote learning, but then also, doing the other side as well and still being a teacher and finding that line between the two of them. And it's blurred a lot.
right. So for yourself, do you feel, is it a little bit more difficult to have any kind of rest or respite?
It is. You're constantly on. My husband even sees it when he's home now. When he tries to work from home, he's like, there's so much going on all the time. And I was like, we have to be.
I definitely have had to be more compassionate and more patient with parents. It's frustrating sometimes because I'm trying to do all these things to help, and then it's like people don't accept the help, they don't show up. Like I have a parent right now, and she's canceled a couple times. Her daughter has severe disabilities and is non-mobile, and I just feel like this parent hasn't had any respite. She's got other kids. She's not joining group time very much, and I feel like if she could buy into it, it might help her feel like more connected, at least because she can't hardly leave the house. I mean, she can't take her daughter out, and so she doesn't have a lot of help. So I think I'm just trying to be patient with families because I know it's really difficult. But I also feel like we need some expectations for some families too, so that they can really get on board, because I think when they haven't chosen to go virtual and it's forced upon them, it feels different because they haven't made that choice. And so they're kind of like, I'm just going to wait, until we go back in person, like till the real school starts, and it's like, that's not always going to be a possibility. So
as the choice is now happening, you mentioned earlier that parents are going to be choosing to go back or stay virtual. Do you feel like maybe you'll have a more engagement at that
that's
point?
what I'm hoping for that. I'm really hoping for that. It's going to be a hard start do-over. I'm only keeping 2 of my students. And so I'll have 8 new students from all different classrooms who may feel, they may have been so attached to their other teacher. They may have already had them, in person. And so it's going to be tough for a while for them to be like, okay, she's all right. Like, I'm okay with this now. But I think once we get past that, I feel like there'll be more engagement because they've made that choice rather than it being made for them.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they'll regret it.
You find it hard, right? Each person has their own story and how they're handling it and how their other family members are handling it. Then you look at our children at all different various ages. So that's definitely, you try to connect with them and make sure they're getting what they need. A lot of listening, a lot of active listening, which sometimes I'm not so good at, to try to, add more to the brain. So it gets pretty saturated on, oh, well, what was their story? And I should check in on them, and, oh, ask about, so-and-so. And so it's a lot of, and it's brief, right? So they're coming in, you don't have the time to connect with them as much and to listen.
Sounds like a lot of compassion, which leads me to my next question about where have you felt, have you felt you've had to really call on your compassion for others? And do you feel a greater need to show compassion?
Daily, hourly, minutely. I think I wrote down for compassion, right? I have to dig deep, right? Because first and foremost, ultimately, I have to have compassion for myself. And sometimes that's the first thing that goes out the window. And yet, if I can't care for myself accordingly, I'm not going to be able to take care of anyone else.
That's right. That's right. Compassion for yourself has got to, really, it does have to come first, I think, or else you're going to be melted every day.
Melting. It's Friday, so I'm pretty excited for the weekend. Even with bad weather, that means I get to curl up with a blanket and
yeah, get a little comfort. You have your own family too, and this is just so much to deal with. How do you take care of yourself?
Well, when the air is okay, I've been trying to ride my bike. Been trying to ride my bike in the morning. If I don't do it in the morning, it doesn't happen. And otherwise, it's hard. I don't have my gym, like I did. I had my group of people that I would see at the gym, and I'm not going to the gym. So I try to make some time to at least do a little bit of yoga, some bike riding, or take a walk after dinner with the kids so they actually leave the house and get a little bit of exercise. And they're still swimming right now. So, at least they have that, but it's hard with the self-care. There's not a lot of time for that, I feel like. I think I've been eating way too much. And that sort of thing, because it's like, at least I can make dessert with my kids, and it makes them happy and it makes me happy. I just keep buying bigger pants. So I'm like, something has to give,
I know I know it just keeps coming and coming and coming and coming.
I also have parents that are in their 80s. And so I have to, we had to really readjust our life and our lifestyle for this, because of this pandemic. So I've had to, I do their grocery shopping, and take them to their doctors. And so in order to do all that and do my job and be around other adults that are trying to do their job also, I have had to take care of myself. And I'm not a young person. So, sometimes we're set in our ways, and learning a whole new lifestyle has been challenging. But as teachers, we're very flexible. So you just kind of roll with the punches sometimes. And in the beginning of this pandemic, listening to the news and everything, just created a very high anxiety in my life. And so I've had to learn to turn off the news and just do what I know is right to do, taking precautions, taking care of myself in order to be able to take care of others. So
lots of deep breaths and making sure that I take my kids outside, even if it's, not the park, even though stuff is now opening up, it's still making sure we're getting outside into that sunshine and really taking in those moments that we do get to spend together. It really is special. A lot of other generations haven't been able to have that. So, we're taking it day by day and enjoying the time
I've changed my routine in the morning. So usually first thing I go to my phone, right? Figure out who's not coming to work, what the plan is. And And I've really carved out at least 10, 15 minutes of time that I have my coffee. I get to sit down in my chair, and I've taken up meditation. So just breathing. Sometimes I don't actually actively get to do it, right? I might be listening as I'm getting ready for work, but that's been really helpful. And then my weekends, or if I can get out, anytime I can get outside or take a walk in nature, those are like fulfilling moments of just soaking it in. Some sunshine, right?
Yeah, these are good. These are good ideas. Good
But
strategies.
breathing is a big one.
Breathing.
Breathing is good.
Yes, breathing is good. Breathing is good.
I have to stop and think about what it is that I can do. So in between my meetings, I actually go outside, which I never did when I was in my office. I'll go take a walk around the block. I started gardening. I started doing photography again. I started doing things that I hadn't done in a long, long time. And so things that I enjoy doing. And we have to find time for ourselves.
So this has been really interesting, and I can really get a feeling for what you're going through. Do you have any last words or piece of advice for other teachers who are in your position?
I think I'm just learning how to be more flexible and just kind of be like, all right, what do you want me to do now? Like, you want me to do that and this or this and that, or have a classroom or don't have a classroom, or, I'm just trying to roll with the punches the best that I can, which is not always easy. So
no, it isn't always easy. We are in a crisis, and we're still in a crisis. And I think everybody thought, oh, I can do this for a few months. And then it just clearly is going to keep going on until there's a resolution. So yeah, it's day by day. So I really appreciate meeting with you here today. I think that this
Thanks
was
for talking with me.
amazing. Really learned a lot. And, I hope you continue to manage and survive this situation.
Me too.
In terms of networking and reflection and connecting with other directors, and we're all in this together, right? It's everyone's same story on how they're processing and handling it. If there was a magic wand that just made everything great and we all had the right answers, but I think in terms of just connection with each other and listening to everyone's story and what worked well for you and how do you do this, and I think engagement is the ticket. If we could figure out how we could have the time to take breaths and be there for one another, that's the ultimate.
And that's ultimately what I get from talking to you today, is just being present, breathing, taking care of yourself, and really engaging with others, connecting with others to both support yourself and them. And it's a crisis. So, things are not, it's still a crisis. And we think of a crisis as being a little shorter.
When will it end? When will it end?
Right. So I really appreciate talking to you today. I really feel that this is going to help other people who are, struggling with all of these same difficulties that you are right now. So thank you very much, Leslie.
You're so welcome. So great to see you.
I just think that I think I would like to just tell everybody that no matter what you do or how you do it, or how you're providing care and education and how you're teaching, you're doing an awesome job, right? You're doing an awesome job. And don't be down on yourself. Don't think that, you have to be perfect, because there is nothing perfect right now going on. And we're all doing the best that we can. And take that time, take those weekends and don't think about work, and just think about, taking care of yourself and enjoying your life, because we'll get over this, and our kids will be okay. It's not the best situation, but we're as they say, we're all in it together, but we'll get over this and life will continue and our kids will thrive. I think that we know we live in our own worlds right here, and all this politics is up here, but we have our own little world right here that we need to take care of. We need to take care of ourselves and make sure that we're healthy and sane and safe before we can move on to other things. So turn off the news for a little bit, you know, and stay informed, but don't get thrown into that, you know, because your emotions get thrown into that. And so
Right.
we don't need to deal with those things. We need to deal with our own lives so that we can be better teachers and better wives, husbands, spouses, partners, moms, dads, sisters, you know, brothers, whatever we are, we can be that better person that way.
That is really good advice. Just do what you can do.
I think just reminding yourself to be flexible. This is a time of change, I think, for everybody. And in the classroom, you know, it's not all going to be perfect every single day, but just making sure that you've got a really good team to work with, people that you can talk to, and going with the flow. You know, you have to be flexible in this position. I think that's always been one of our characteristics as teachers is go with it, you know, be flexible and understand that things happen that are out of your control and it's okay.
Right. Minding your own store, what you can control, right?
Absolutely.
Do you find yourself turning to that kind of thought more often? Because there's also a lot of other things going on. There's fires, there's political stuff, there's social, you know, social injustice, all kinds of things happening. So do you find yourself, I mean, is that a coping strategy for you to turn to your own?
It is. And it's even something that I like relay often to my children and tell them, you know, this is, you know, when they're fighting, you know, you can't control your brother. You can only control what's happening to you and how you're going to react to it.
So yeah, that's good advice.
Yes.
Going forward for all of us, you can only control what you're going to do. So I appreciate you taking the time. And it sounds like you're really super busy with trying to teach and manage your home. So, you know, I especially appreciate it right now.
Of course. Thank you.
That we have to connect together because directors live on an island all on their own and they have to hold up everything around them. And, you know, it's good for us to be able to get feedback off of other people that are doing things. And there's no reason to recreate the wheel. There's lots of resources that are out there. There's lots of things that people are doing and saying, oh, maybe we should try this, or maybe we should try, you know, something different. And we're always open for new ideas. And I think that's what's great about social media today is that we're able to really, you know, communicate with one another and really see new and innovative ideas and get resources. You know, we can learn from one another.
Well, Diane, thank you. And you're inspiring me to put even more energy into trying to connect people, trying to share resources, because that's not the first time I've heard this from a director, just the importance of connecting with each other. Even though the time is limited and your time is shorter than ever, we have to just continue to find ways to, you know, support each other, because you can't go to a conference and see each other. So we have to find other ways.
Right.
Yeah, connection and engagement, that's what we need. And
most definitely, especially during a time like this.
Yeah. Hello again. I hope you enjoyed this virtual discussion of the ups and downs of running early childhood programs in classrooms during the pandemic. I learned a lot from my time with the panelists. I think you will agree that there are many themes running through the conversations. The panelists mentioned flexibility, humor, compassion, including self-compassion, letting go of perfectionism, resilience, caring for themselves and caring for others. They all showed a very high level of compassion and understanding and have made innovations and extra efforts to support families, caregivers, and children during this time. Every one of them has grown in flexibility, compassion, courage, and creativity. Every one of them works to inspire others and to be a model of resilience and positive outlook. Every one of them has made efforts to manage their stress through time with family, being out in nature, exercising, and enjoying the small comforts of home. I hope you enjoy this presentation and that you feel more support for the work that you do. I hope you leave feeling confident in your own ability to innovate, to inspire, to love, and to take care of yourself.